All right. Hey y'all, Happy New Year. I'm glad to finally start our monthly meetings back. And we're trying to give y'all information that you need, try to give you the information and set you free. And we'll send the recording out on Friday. So I'm gonna throw it to Amanda to do her part, and then I'll do my part after that.
All right, I'm going to try to share my screen here. So before before I get started on this, I just want to say hello to everyone. Super excited to get these back started, which this will be my first one that I've had with you guys. So I'm glad to see your faces and glad you were able to join us. Hopefully, as we get back into the habit of having these monthly meetings, we'll have more people attend. But um, I've told you guys before in the past at other meetings that I'm not all about us meeting just for the sake of meeting. So we wanted to make sure that we had something important to talk with you guys about before we started setting these meetings up again. And since we've been meeting in person and things like that leading up to this, we wanted to we've just been kind of putting these off for a little bit until now when we need to get back started. So today, I'm going to just briefly talk to you guys about the FER and carryover process, which you should be starting at your sites about this time. Um, I'm not going to lie, I am not extremely familiar with the FER process, so I reached out to LEA Accounting and non-LEA Accounting and just got some feedback from them as to how this process works. And I did hear back from LEA Accounting, but I did not hear back from non-LEA Accounting. I was actually out yesterday with a horrible migraine. I'm still feeling the effects of it. I don't know if any of you get migraines, but they tend to wipe me out for a couple of days and make it where I have like really bad brain fog for a couple of days. And so I'm experiencing that. So if I seem weird or I ramble, that's what's going on right now with me. But I wanted to go over with you the information that they shared about the FER process. And if you have questions about this, I will try to answer, but I'm not going to be able to guarantee that I'm going to be, that I'm going to know much about this process just because I'm learning as, the same as some of you may be learning. And some of you probably know more about it than I do. But this is what was given to me by LEA Accounting. They reminded us that all finance, and I'm not going to share this as, hopefully you can see this. I don't want to share it as a presentation because it does weird things on my two screens. And, it does, when I go to hit presentation, it doesn't work right. So I'm just going to leave it like this and hopefully you can see it. But here, I'll see if I can make it slightly bigger. There we go. All right. So thinking about the FER process, this is the closing out your 2024 financial reports. Okay. So you have to make sure that all of your financial statements have been submitted and approved before beginning your FER. So if you still have any invoices, receipts, that sort of thing that you need reimbursement for, you need to get that in. This is for FY24. This is last year. You need to get those in and submitted as fast as possible so that they can be approved so that you can begin the FER process. Once that FER process or once your FER has been approved, it will load whatever carryover funds you had from last year into your FY25 application. Now, I'm gonna say this again in a minute, but I do want to say if you don't want funds to carry over from last year, for example, you already may know that you're not going to be able to spend the funds you already have this year, and you know that there's a very good chance that those carryover funds are not going to be spent. Please just, I'm not exactly sure where in the FER process you do it, but somewhere within the FER process, it asks you whether you want those funds to carry over. And if you don't have a plan for those funds, please don't ask for them to be carried over. The reason I'm going to skip, I'm not going to expand on this right now. I'm going to talk to you about this at the end of this presentation, but please don't do that. But if you do want the funds to carry over, you do have a plan for your carryover funds, then you will do the FER process. Those funds will then load into the FY25 continuation application. And then you will do basically a budget revision. And once it has been approved by your ALSD specialist and then approved by myself, then those funds will load into your ES2 portal. So they'll be available for you to start drawing down funds for. However, she did this, and remember this guidance was given to me by LEA accounting. So if you're from an LEA, she said you also have to do a system-wide budget amendment that has to be submitted to LEA accounting. It has to be reviewed and approved by LEA accounting in order to draw those funds down. So that's another step that has to be taken for LEAs. Whether there's a step like that that needs to be taken for CBOs, I'm not sure. Again, they did not get back to me, but if you are going through the FER process and you are having any problems, please reach out to your non-LEA accounting person. This is for CBOs, to get any further instructions from them. If I find out from them there's further instructions, I'll try to make sure that that gets sent out to you in the weekly email from Erica. But if there may not be any extra steps for CBOs. I'm just not sure if you have to do any kind of budget amendment like the LEAs do. So let's talk a little bit more about how we want this carryover to look like, or what we want it to look like when you get it into your application. So you're going to have to do a budget revision. And if you're going to when you're adding these new expenses, so let's say that you are going to take your carryover funds and you're going to buy something completely different than what you had in your original application, please just, once you've typed out in your budget narrative what you're going to purchase with these funds, please just make sure that you put next to the funding that you're planning on budgeting, you just put carryover in parentheses next to those funds, okay? Same thing if you're adding funds to a pre-existing budget line item. So let's say that you are going to add carryover funds to your materials and supplies budget. Just go ahead and leave your original budget that you had budgeted with your FY25 funds there in the narrative, and then add to it the amount that you're adding to that line item with your carryover funds. This just helps us understand what is being paid for with your current year FY25 funds and what you're planning on paying for with your carryover funds. So just to give you an example of what this might look like, let's say you've got function code 9130, object code 400 through 499, that's materials and supplies. You already had this writing there. You already had this description there. You said that you were going to purchase classroom materials and supplies, including STEM supplies, books to supplement current reading and literacy program, art supplies, music instructional supplies, math manipulatives, and general supplies such as paper, pen, pencils, crayons, markers, poster board, etc. And you already had what's written in green here in your budget. You already had budgeted for that expense $2,975. But now you want to add an additional $2,827 from your carryover to that expense. So you're just going to put a plus, you're adding this, and you put in parentheses that it's carryover. You don't have to have it color coded like I have it here. I just wanted to have it color coded so that it would stand out to you that what was green was already in the budget, and now you've added the yellow to imply that you're spending carryover funds you're just adding to these materials and supplies with those carryover funds. Here's another example that kind of still falls under the same object code. Let's say you're saying you're going to purchase computer hardware such as a 3D printer and materials needed for 3D printing and Chromebooks for student use. You already had budgeted $5,000 in that line item. Now you're adding an additional $15,000 in carryover to that line item. Okay. So this is an example of how we would like you to detail it in your budget. So far, I believe only one 21st Century site has gotten their carryover, has gone through the FER process and has gotten their carryover. And they didn't put it in parentheses, but they did everything else already. They already put that it was carryover funds, and they did detail that. So that was great. That was perfect. Exactly what we wanted to see. Just as some reminders, you cannot add carryover to administrative funds, so just keep that in mind. You need to add them in other places. Another reminder that I should have put on this list is that if you are cohort 16, you shouldn't be putting carryover towards any major equipment purchases because this is the last year of your grant and you're not really supposed to make any major equipment purchases the last year of your grant. So that really needs to be added to this list of things that you shouldn't do. Um, and again, I want to reiterate, if you don't need or want your carryover funds from last year, please refuse them during the FER process. Um, One of the reasons in the new cohort I really wanted to make it where we didn't even have carryover anymore is because when we carry over funds and they still don't get spent, they still don't get spent in that next year, those funds get sent back to the federal, those they get sent back to the feds. We have to send them back in September. And so if you aren't going to use the funds, they're just lost. And it's just too late for us to spend those funds on anybody else. And so another thing is that, we are planning on giving some supplemental funding to some sites that need it. And I know a lot of you are waiting to hear about that. We're still waiting to find out if our tidings waiver has been approved. But it would be great if we had additional funds that we knew you weren't going to spend, additional carryover funds from FY24 that we knew you weren't going to spend, that we could add to those supplemental funds and give to a school that is going to spend them, or give to a subgrantee that is going to spend them. If we don't spend our funds, if we don't do a better job of spending out our funds, then we really do increase our risk of having our state funding reduced. And so we really need to try to make sure that doesn't happen. So if you know that you're not going to spend those carryover funds, maybe you're cohort 16 and you really don't have anything to spend them on, you really can't make any large purchases, but you've got like a large amount left over from last year and you don't believe you're going to be able to spend them, please just deny them in the FER process so that we can get them spent out from the state point of view. And so that we don't risk having our entire state's program funding cut. So if you have any questions about that, just let me know. But that's really the main things I wanted to go over with you regarding carryover. Anybody have any questions or anything about either the FER process or carryover? I'm going to stop sharing, I think. Okay. I don't see any questions popping up, so I'm going to stop sharing. Actually, let's see. And turn it over to Erica if there's no other questions.
Oh, okay. Sorry, when you move stuff, your screen starts to move. So same thing about it. Okay. So we wanted to do a one-on-one to talk about, not a one-on-one, but to share about the mid-year report. So Linda Williams created a sample because we had a lot of questions last year and we want to make sure that we do a good job of explaining what we're looking for when we're doing this mid-year report. So the deadline will be the same for everybody this year, and I wanted to make it a little further out, so you had a little bit more time. And if you have questions, then you can let me know and we can do another training and we can do a one-on-one if necessary. So it will be due February 28th. It'll be due to the login and it'll be uploaded to the file. We'll send this out on Friday. We'll send you a sample, this sample, and we'll send you the actual template in we'll give it to you in a Word and a PDF that'll be fillable so that you'll have it in two formats and you can decide which one you want to submit. But you will have to submit a PDF because you'll need the signatures of the program or site director and the external evaluator. Your external evaluator just needs to look over it and make sure that y'all are on the same page as far as your evaluation process. So in the beginning, we're going to ask you which cohort are you? Pretty simple. You're either 16 or you're 17. Who completed the report? We want your name right there and your email address. What is the name of your LEA or CBO? So whatever school system you work at, and then the school served. So please give us the actual LEA or CBO's name and the actual school served, not whatever you've named your program because then it gets confusing for us to try to match up who's with who. We want the proposed number of students served that was originally in your grant, because this is just a checkup. This is how are you doing? Are you progressing to what you put in your RFA for the mid-year? Your proposed number of students and your proposed number of adults and families that is from your original RFA, and then the number of students that have attended as of now. So, and the number of adults that have participated as of now. So you'll be able to look on Easy Report, and I'll show you that in a second. Let me see. I look at all one. That's fine. If I go to Atala and you go to your dashboard and participation, so your attended number is in the student attendance status. So this would be 120. So we're looking for this number from your dashboard. How many students have attended so far? And then the number that you proposed is from your original RFA. So then this is your example. You see it's all filled in. So for the goals, and notice I added all goals. We want you to look at each goal that you put in your RFA, list those out in this first column. So it will be enough to where you can add columns for this. Don't worry, because it's just three right here. It'll be more. So you'll list each one of your goals, and then what is your measurable objective, which is from your RFA? What is the measurement from your RSA? The process. Um, so this one, the overall goal of the program. So these are just examples. Provide a summary of the program progress towards the objective, including the achievements and milestones met during the reporting period. So this is going to be what you're looking at as far as your program. What is your progress? And then the strategies. What are the strategies that have been implemented to achieve the objective? So your first one is increase student academic achievement in reading proficiency. So your measurable objective from your RFA is by the end of the academic year, 75% of the participating students will demonstrate at least 10% improvement in their reading assessment scores. Your measurement is the progress is measured using pre and post reading assessment scores. And then you're telling me that your progress as of the mid-year report, which is right now, I want you to be looking at as of January or February. When you're filling this out, whatever day you fill this out, give me that data. As of the mid-year report, 60% of students have shown an average improvement of 5% in their reading scores. Attendance and participation in reading interventions have been consistent, contributing to this progress. However, some of the students are still struggling with comprehension skills. So that's looking at the actual data, like what, if you're doing pre and post scores, if you're doing you're looking at where the students are right now. So right now I see, oh, we're just 5%, but we are have not made the 10% that we put in our original RFA. And you're saying also what is the qualitative data? So what have you noticed that your students are working on to progress towards that prize, and how can it be pushed? And then your strategies. So you're saying that you want to, the example saying, conduct small group reading interventions, provide professional development for staff, and literacy focused teaching methods. So those are some particular things that you can do in your 21st century programs to try to take your 5% to 10% so that you can reach your goal before the end of the grant year. Same thing with the next one, improve student proficiency in mathematics, focusing on problem solving and critical thinking. By the end of the academic year, 80% of students will demonstrate a 5% improvement in their mathematic assessment scores compared to the baseline assessment at the start of the year. That will be from your RFA. The measurement use pre and post assessment scores from standardized math tests. That would be from the RFA. The progress at the mid-year mark, 50% of students have shown a 2% improvement in their scores. So this means that you have done some other assessment aside from a pre and a post. You've done a mid-year so that you can see where your students are, and you see that they're at the 2% mark. They're not at the 5% that you originally put in your objective, which is working towards that. That's progress. So then the strategies to try to help your students get to the 5%, not above the 2%, provide small group tutoring sessions for students struggling with specific concepts, incorporate peer tutoring programs to enhance collaboration and learning. So that's what we're looking for the first page. And remember, you'll do one for each goal in the RFA. There will be a box for each goal. And then the next page is your action plans for goals not met. So last year, this is where we had some confusion because if you were brand new, then you needed an action step for every goal. But excuse me, this year, since nobody is new, you can look at this and you can say, well, okay, of my goals and objectives that I had on this page, I met two of them. So for those two, you don't have to do an action step. But for the ones that you have not met yet, we're looking for an action step. So the area of improvement and instructions are at the top. We want you to describe the specific area needing improvement for the action step, specify the actions needed to address the issue, responsible parties, list the individuals or groups responsible for carrying out the action. Sorry, when you have a box and you can't move a box and it's moving with it. I'm gonna say that this says Linda Williams, chime in and tell me what this says on here since I can't move this. Sorry.
Like we
I'm
going
gonna say
another
it says
box.
progress.
Erica, did you just say something to me? I'm sorry.
After responsible, I have the control box right here. So I'm gonna say that this says progress. There we go.
Oh,
Progress.
yes, it is.
Okay.
It does. I'm
So
sorry.
you're good. Describe the progress made so far in addressing that area, and then the strategy's next step, outline the strategy or next steps to continue and improving in this area. So the first example is reading. And you can list out your whole objective right here, or you can just put the main focus. So I know that there has to be a reading objective. So you can put reading right there, or you can put reading and write the whole thing out. I don't care. Either one, because that's going to let you know that your area of improvement is reading. So this has it written out. Students are struggling with reading comprehension, particularly in identifying math ideas, drawing conclusions, and making inferences. So Linda Williams gave some specific things that are areas of improvement, but if you just want to put reading, that is okay. Your action steps, though, you're suggesting that you're going to provide professional development for teachers on effective reading comprehension techniques and differentiating instructions, and offer small group instruction. So that those are actual action steps that can be made and can be taken to try to help your students improve in reading. The responsible parties, because we want to make sure that you know that it is not just a one person thing. It's a team effort, and it's not, there are other people that can be responsible for this action, not just the program director. Notice the program director is not listed. So the responsible parties are the reading intervention specialists, the classroom teachers, the staff, and retired teachers. You, as the program or site director, will gather this team to work towards this. So this is something that you're going to have a staff meeting to talk about how you're going to make these goals and objectives. You go from the mid-year mark to actually making those. And you can actually have a meeting to discuss what you're going to put in this mid-year plan. So think about that also. You have time for that. So the progress at the mid-year mark, 70% of the students have shown 5% improvement in their reading scores according to their report cards. And the strategy is offer additional one-on-one tutoring for students who continue to struggle. So we will give you this template for you to look at that, but I want to make sure that we have time if people have questions about this. The form has not changed a lot. We did add some words to make it clear of what we want. So adding that you don't have to do the action plan for goals that have been met. You only have to do it for the goals that have not been met. And then that we want signatures down here. Your external evaluator, we had a meeting with them last week where we talked about some of the expectations for them looking at this mid-year report, and we talked through the mid-year report. That recording was on our Thursday email. Yeah, we'll send this out on Friday with the example and with the template. Y'all have questions? Let me try to See my screens. Mm, it's 2025, not
Erica,
2024.
when you set an action plan for the objectives not met, are you talking about the objectives not met during the 23-24 school year? Or, I mean, are you talking about the ones where it looks like we're not going to meet them this year and what we need to improve on to help make sure we achieve them by the end of the year? I'm sorry.
No, that's a great question. This school year. So this
Okay.
is the mid-year report for this school year. Last school year was addressed in your final report that they submitted September 30th or whenever your external evaluator submitted. But this is for, and I'll make that clarification in the description. We'll make that clarification in the description because that's a good question.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I think that first sentence should say the 2025 mid-year report right there.
Yes.
So that'll be, she's correcting it right now. That might have been caused part of your confusion.
But we'll give at least another line of explanation for that to make sure that it's clear that we're looking for you to be looking for August to now.
That
And
is correct.
And I just want to just as a little sidebar, this is why it's so important for you to pick a measurement method that you can maybe refer to throughout the year and not just look at beginning of year and end of year when you're creating your goals and your measurable objectives. It may be too late for that this year, but just thinking in the future, think about any kind of testing that's done with kids throughout the year by their regular schools that you can maybe get that information from those schools. We don't want you necessarily spending, if you don't have to, spending 21st century time doing any kind of assessments with these kids. We would rather you spend that time doing enrichment and activities, but you should be able to reach out to the school and typically, especially the elementary age, but really it should be throughout their entire, throughout all of the grades, there should be some sort of assessment that's occurring throughout the year for teachers to kind of base whether the kids are making any progress. And if you can get access to that information, that, you can use that, especially at this time of the year in the mid-year to determine, okay, are they meeting those goals? And so trying to think of ways that you can look at assessments that are being like star reading or math or whatever, all these different assessments that schools typically give to students throughout the year. If you can use that as your measurement, then that may be easier for you than looking at, a beginning of the year compared to the end of the year data, because that doesn't help you much when it comes to this report right here.
Now, this report is mid-year. You're correct about that, but it's based also on their grant and what they said they were going to measure according to the goals and objectives inside of the grant.
True.
So this is just a reminder. You're correct, Amanda. This is a reminder. Okay, you said you're going to look at benchmark tests. You said you're going to look at STAR testing. So this information is based off the grant when they actually wrote it and was approved about it.
That is
So
true. And I totally get that. But if they did, for example, pick something like they're going to base it off of beginning of year and end of year, then they need to think of something that they could look at now at this time of the year to determine if they're getting close to their goals. So that's the reason why I put that out there.
yeah,
They may have written the grant not really thinking about testing that occurs throughout the year. So it's not, I don't think it would be harmful for them to look at another form of testing as their measurement if
that would be great.
if they
That
put
would be
that
great.
in their grant. Yeah.
Alicia asked a good question in the chat box. Is one completed for each site if you have multiple sites? The site and the grant terminology. Okay. Per grant. So if you put, I know, if you put because most of our programs are one site, so it would be per site. But some of you who have two sites on one RFA grant that was approved, then you would put it together. But it's per grant, if that makes sense. Because you might have more than one cohort 16s and more than one cohort 17s. So it's not just one per cohort, it's one per grant or site.
Yeah, per site.
Great question.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any questions on this? I will send out the template and the example on Friday. We will give this recording will go out on Friday. And if you still have questions on it, please feel free to contact me or Linda Williams about the mid-year report. We're given a little bit over a month to turn it in, to think about it. Plan a staff meeting. I used to do this with my staff. I didn't put all of this on my shoulder because they came up with really good strategies for how we were going to work towards completing the goal or achieving the goal. Like Amanda said, you could come up with different measurable goals to, in addition, to give you an idea of where you are versus what you originally put in the RFA, to give you some additional insight.
You know what, Erica, I also think it's a great idea if they post it somewhere or make sure that, the staff can see it so they'll know exactly what goal they're working on and what strategies that they're trying to use to achieve those goals. So it can stay right there in front of them.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Mhm.
Somebody asked in the chat box, will there still be an RFA application office hours on Thursday? Yes. At 10 o'clock, and it'll be on that same WebEx link that it has previously been on. So yes, bring your questions. If we don't have anything further, let's stop my shares and I can actually see what I'm looking for. Gotcha. Then I will send this recording out on Friday, and Amanda will send me her carryovers PowerPoint to send out so y'all can have that. You're sending that to me, right, Amanda? And we'll get it to y'all. When will the 9th and the 16th be posted? The office hours. Did we record the office hours last week, Amanda?
I did, but then I was out of the office Friday for our snow day, which we didn't have any, whatever, our bad weather day. And I actually worked on compliance monitoring all day long and tried to get that finished out. And then yesterday, again, I was out with a migraine. So I'm sure the recording has been sent to me by WebEx. I just haven't had a chance to send it over to Erica. So I'll get that to her today.
Oh, we'll send that out on Friday also.
But thank you for the reminder.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Y'all have a good one. Thank y'all for spending a little time with us this Thursday, and we'll let y'all know same time next month. We're starting our second Tuesday meetings back. We've already thought of a topic. I have it written down somewhere for next month. So y'all have a good one.
Oh, can I say one more thing? If you think of things that you would like us to present on, please let us know. We want these meetings to be worth your time. And so if there's questions you have or things that you feel like would be good for us to cover in an upcoming office hours, please reach out to either myself or Erica, and we'll try to make sure we take that into consideration when we plan these.
Thank you, Amanda.